and welcome back to Dragon's Demize at Origins. I'm Lesley. Usually you have Greg here, but I get to introduce the interview today, and I'm joined by Hunter, my awesome husband, who you have heard on the podcast but haven't seen yet. And we're joined today by Emerson Matsuuchi. Did I say that right?
Pretty close.
Okay.
Pretty close.
Designer of many games. Most popular, I think, was probably the Century line, which has come out every year at Origins. Mm-hmm. And strangely enough, the first Century came out at our first Origins.
Oh, okay.
So it holds a special place in our hearts. So back to our Jenga interviews. Just to recap for everyone, the red questions are questions about the board game industry. Blue questions are questions about any of your games. And the green questions are random, whatever we come up with. So you get the first poll.
All right. Okay.
And we don't play by the specific one-hand-only Jenga rules. Oh, he's going for green.
This is not voting well. This is really not voting well.
Ah, you did it though. All right. So my favorite green question to ask is, what are your hobbies outside of board games?
Oh, okay. I do 3D modeling, and it was a hobby for a long time, like over 10 years. Actually, recently I've actually started getting paid to do 3D modeling. So the ones I've done that you might be familiar with is Onitama.
Okay.
The pieces, I did the 3D modeling for that, as well as like the Tiny Epic series of games from Gameland Games. So the item meeples and those tiny little items are things that I have modeled.
Nice.
So I do that as a hobby, but once in a while I get paid to do that. So that's awesome.
I backed Tiny Epic Mechs actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So I actually modeled the mech suits.
I was going to ask.
Yes. So yeah, I'm glad that they gave me the opportunity to be involved in those projects.
That's cool. It's very cool. All right, my turn, but your question. So.
Oh.
I like the middle ones. Oh. All right.
This is about a specific game of his or
No,
industry?
anything in the gaming industry.
All right. I would like to know how it was that you first got your first steps into doing game design.
Oh, okay. I think if we go really far back, I'll try to give the condensed version, but when I was a kid, I've always wanted to make games, and I had a soft spot for robots. So my first game was a robot RPG, giant robot RPG. It was absolutely terrible. But I was only 12 years old at the time.
Sure.
But I've always had that desire to create games, and in fact, I think I went into computer science and learning about programming just because I wanted to make video games, or just games in general. Mm-hmm. But I've always had a soft spot for board games, tabletop games, because I was a kid in the 80s that loved Dungeons and Dragons. And I played a lot of Magic the Gathering, so tabletop games are always a big part of my enjoyment, my hobby. So, but I didn't do it in a more professional capacity until around 2011, 2012, and at that point, I was in my IT job. I was doing software development. I was managing a team. I was semi-happy, but I always felt like there's something that I want to do. And in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, when I retire, I want to make games. So, but what if I just circumvent that step and just go making the games?
Sure.
And so I wanted to just test the waters and see what it was like. So I started to create games, and I didn't think I would be a good designer. Even though I enjoyed that process, I didn't think I would be a good designer. So I thought maybe I can get into the industry as a publisher. So I first started off as a publisher, and there were two individuals that were incredibly influential for me to transition from, being a publisher to just being a designer. The first person is Colby Doug from Plaid Eye Games. Mm-hmm. He was the one that actually really inspired me to just be a designer, because he said that I have a talent for design, which I never recognized. Mm-hmm. And then the other gentleman is Tom Vassell, who I probably wouldn't be in this hobby if it wasn't for him.
Yeah.
Watching his reviews actually got me into the hobby by watching his first review of Settlers of Catan. This guy has so much enthusiasm. I should buy this game, and bought the game, played it with some friends, and we just got hooked.
Right.
And I think the very next day, I went out and bought Ticket to Ride and Carcassonne and started watching all the Dice Tower
All the
games.
classics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm sorry that was a longer.
No, that was
Oh,
great.
totally fine. Yeah.
Oh boy. Oh. Always, I've never understood the physics of how some pieces can be so stubborn and some can be so
Yeah.
easy. All right, your
All right.
question.
So, yeah, your poll, my question. See how that works? Greg called it a trust exercise. So we talked about this earlier, very curious about how you came up with this idea to create 3 games that ultimately make, was it 7 or 8 that we did?
So we have a math person in our, her sister.
My sister is a master's in math.
And she did the math, and she was like, well, I guess the 8th option would be not to play at all. So it was like 7 games.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct.
The 8th combination.
8 combinations, but one is to like a 0.
Right.
A 0, but no one plays a 0 game, right?
Right.
Okay. So I can't take credit for the initial idea. Because
Okay.
That was actually Plan B.
Okay.
So the head of Plan B, Sophie Gravel, said that she's seen in her experience, because she used to be the former head of F2Z Entertainment, basically like Z-Man, which is now Asmodee, North America. She said in her experience, a product that is that's announced as a series does very well, because it sends the message that this game is going to be supported. There will be additional products. We're investing a lot into this, so it subconsciously I think it may draw some people in that way. So it was actually always her idea to make it a series of games. So she asked, "Can we make it a trilogy of games?" And at that time, I only had Spice Road.
Okay.
As a game. And that was the original title. It was Spice Road, which became Caravan, which now became Century. But it was her idea, and she asked, "Can we make additional games?" And in my mind, I was thinking, so like different games, as in like mechanically different. I was like, well, I think I can make like integrate a board into the second game, but I have no idea what to do with anything past that. And she says, "Okay, but can we do something special, like make it mixable?" And in my mind, I'm thinking, like mix the games, mechanically different games together. It's like, okay, I've never really done that before. But I did say that, I think I can do it. And then when they announced it, I said, I'm going to have to commit to creating games at that point. So it's really right after the announcement, that's when I actually got to work on building these games. But it's a funny story is that when I went back to her, and I explained, this is the product line, and she told me that she was kind of, she said that, I was expecting like Dominion and was it Prosperity? I was like, oh, you mean a standalone expansion? It's already after I had like developed all of this.
Yeah.
That she was just expecting like a standalone expansion, and I guess we took it farther than what she was expecting, which I'm hoping she's happy with now.
I mean, it's pretty unique.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's not really anything I can think of. The only thing I could think of like it would be like 504, which is a
exactly.
giant experiment.
Right.
And I feel like you've taken that giant experiment and refined it into something that's building on itself.
Yeah, it's sort of like a curated, like 504 has all these different mechanics in the combinations. So think of it more like this is like a curated set of combinations.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think it's your pull again.
Yeah.
My question is going to be, what happens when this falls?
We have to make it fall at the end of the interview, so prepare for that.
Is that speed Jenga?
All right. Your question.
Is this another question about a specific game or the industry?
Industry.
I'll get this eventually. This is my first one of these I'm doing. So we're both in that boat together.
Okay.
Actually, hearing you talk about I was going to ask about your background. So you said you're IT related.
Yeah.
This is similar to me. I've been doing a little bit of design, and I have also an IT background. I am curious if you've ever thought of doing something that has some sort of app integration, and if it did, would you have some thoughts on how you wanted that to fit into the game?
Oh, actually, yeah. App integration is something that I've thought a lot about. And in fact, I worked on a couple of apps. One of it was the Dead of Winter Crossroads app for Plaid Hat. And the reason that I took that project was I strongly felt that the app has to like add value but not be a necessary part of it. So because I think people still don't, we kind of like the purity of having a board game with components, and having an app integration should just add some value to it rather than being something that is absolutely integrated and cannot be separated.
You don't want to be hamstrung if your phone runs out of batteries.
Yeah, exactly. So you don't want any kind of like technical obstacles from getting away from your gaming experience. So, and and I know I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but I created the Spectre Ops app. So for one of my previous games with Plaid Hat was a hidden movement game.
We actually
that was the first game I bought of yours. Yeah.
So thank you. I created a tablet-based app for it, which actually I'm quite proud of because it had a lot of the features in there, but it wasn't quite done yet. But I mean, there's always, and it was something that isn't necessary for the game, but it's going to add value in that it's going to keep any human error from occurring. It's also going to give you the replay feature so you can see what happens step by step through the game. And I apologize to everyone because I know a lot of people have asked about that since I've shown it 2 years ago at an 80% done state, but I've just been so consumed with work. Century 3 took a lot longer than I had expected. But yes, I do want to do more development, but I think I'm also going to start delving a little bit into creating tablet games. So like one particular idea is to have just a single smart device and do a social deduction game. But instead of like having the closed eyes and trying to see the correct amount of information, is that the app will handle it for you, and you don't need any other components in that. So things like that, where you get sort of a tabletop experience, but then instead of having components, you just have an app to facilitate the game. So those are like some of the projects I'm looking into as well.
That's interesting.
I'm glad I asked that question.
Oh, so it's my turn. I admit, like, the last half of people's answers, sometimes I'm not actually listening. I'm looking for which block I can pull.
I feel you there. I'm like, I got to think of the question. I got to figure out the block.
Yeah. So many moving parts to Jenga interviews.
This is a very complex game.
Yeah. So Blue, game questions. Now that Century is over, well, and I do think having a trilogy is very attractive. I will say it sold me. But now that that's out and done, what is in the pipeline that we can talk about?
Oh, okay. Let's see. In terms of like some of my upcoming releases that I have a game with Arcane Wonders, which will be, I was told it would be in the Dice Stars Essentials line.
Cool.
And I'm not spoiling anything because I think that was already mentioned on the Dice Tower. It's going to be a city building game, and it's a game that's going to have, or potentially have, miniature pieces on a grid-like board. And you're building right now the theme is ancient Rome.
Okay.
And you'll be building, as you purchase slots and you're building the city, you're actually putting miniature pieces of the buildings onto the board. And so hopefully by the time that you're done, you have like this nice looking, almost like an architectural, almost like an architect's model that they have on their like display, something like that. So hopefully it'll be it has a strong visual appeal.
Sort of like Reef does.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was told that this will be a Kickstarter because it'll have these very elaborate miniatures.
That can be painted.
He loves to
be
paint.
Painted, yes. It can be painted. Just don't paint over the relevant game information. leave that part unpainted. And it'll be actually the first Kickstarter or the only game that I've ever had on Kickstarter.
Oh, wow.
So it'll be, it's very new territory. I'm very naive when it comes to Kickstarter.
Interesting.
Although I am like a super backer, is that what they call it?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
If you back more than like 50 or 75 projects, they call you a super backer or something like that.
I feel that pain too.
Yeah. So, and then I guess Metal Gear Solid's been announced and pre-orders up. So that's going to be, the expected release is in December.
Okay.
So those are the two next releases that I have coming up, and everything else is kind of nebulous. I'm not sure where they stand at the moment.
Cool.
All right.
It's your go.
This looks like a good one. Nope.
Gotta be ginger with that one.
All right.
Oh, it's your question. I just asked one.
Oh, here's my question. Well, I get to steal the thunder of one of Leslie's favorite questions, which is, what is your favorite game? You can do a couple if you want.
My caveat is usually one that you've not designed.
Oh, yes, that is important.
I
Yeah.
don't think I would ever put one that I designed on there. So because I feel like there's other designers that make better games than I do. So I would have to say, I like the whole idea of doing categories. So I'm going to say,
yes, please.
For like Euro or cooperative games, I love Robinson Crusoe. I'm especially proud of the copy I have. It's signed by Ignacy Trevicek. It's got all like the Daedalus production inserts. That's got the carved wood. But I love that game in that it is cooperative, it's incredibly tense, and it is incredibly narrative driven. Like it tells a story when you play that. When it comes to confrontational games, I love Blood Rage.
Ooh.
Nice.
I just have so much fun playing it, and it's one of those games that whether you win or lose, I just have a blast playing that. But I think my most played tabletop game among my group has been Jungle Speed.
Oh, I've not heard of that.
It's a speed game. It came out in 1998, 99, so it's an older game, but it's been around for a long time. If you have not played, you must play this game. It is so much fun.
Okay.
There is a warning. There could be like some physical injuries that could result from it.
Oh man, this is sounding great.
Yeah. So it is a game where each person has their own set of cards that have a pattern and a color. If you ever match a pattern with somebody, then you are in a duel, and there's a totem in the center, a wooden totem in the center, that you must grab before your opponent does. And if you can, you actually give your cards to them, because the object of the game is to get rid of all of your cards. Once you do that, you win.
Okay.
But just imagine if two people are grabbing something, or multiple people grabbing something at the same time, you can have colliding appendages.
Yeah.
And we've had the totem fly across the room. And actually, we've interrupted like a magic tournament on the other side of the room. So we've had all kinds of crazy things happen. But it's the most I can confidently say like over 1,000 plays of that game.
Wow.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds like it's ripe for 3D printing some components. Or designing them 3D.
We were actually toying with the idea as an April Fool's joke to make a totem, but secretly put spikes on one side of it. We would 3D print that, and the unsuspecting SOB would get a painful, rude awakening there. Yeah.
Wow.
That sounds like something that would be in Dune.
That's amazing. All right, it is your poll.
Oh, this is a dangerous one.
Well done. Well done. So, red questions, board game industry. So you say this is going to be your first Kickstarter. What's
It is.
that? Considering that the board game industry is so like charged by Kickstarter right now and has been for a few years, what does that feel like, and how has that been different? How is that approach kind of different from your other games?
Oh, okay, yeah. Actually, that's a really good question, because I have a particular stance with Kickstarter in that when I was a publisher, I actually opted not to use Kickstarter.
Right.
And the reason for that was I was always drawn into this hobby, and I always returned back to this hobby because of the friendly local game store. So I wanted to do everything I can to support them. So I decided I'm going to forego Kickstarter and do like direct sales to customers, and decide I'm going to go through distribution. The distribution would get it out to the retail channels, and then customers would always have to buy from the retail channels, because I wanted to support the brick and mortar game stores that, at least for me, has kept me in the hobby, kept me interested in the hobby, and supported me there. So I have avoided Kickstarter when I was a publisher, and I was always happy like the publishers I've worked with who haven't used Kickstarter. And that's not to say that I'm against the platform itself.
Being a super backer.
Exactly. I guess I'm being hypocritical in a way of like saying I don't want to use Kickstarter, but I back everyone else on Kickstarter. I know it's very, very odd, but I guess it was more just like I wanted to see what I can do for the retailers. But I have no objections for publishers to use that platform,
Right.
because I think it's a good platform, especially for things like miniatures that really do have a very high upfront cost. Right. For instance, the mold cost for miniatures is very expensive, especially for a whole bunch of different unique miniatures.
Trust, he backs all the miniature games.
And I paint them all, and we don't play them unless they're all painted.
Oh, wow. That reminds me of a Warhammer. Yeah, fantasy Warhammer story. I bought like a whole set of the Bretonnian army, and it took me 8 hours just to paint one. And I said,
Oh my!
You know what? I'm never gonna get to play this game because I still have like 100 units I still need to paint.
Yeah. Yeah. So with this one, so it's been a positive experience then so far, or?
So far, but the Kickstarter hasn't.
That's true.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I feel like I haven't started that journey yet.
Yeah. Oh, okay. It's my pull. Let's see. Oh. And then the interview goes quiet. Success. All right. It's all you.
All right, great. So, I need to preface this question with another question. Spectre Ops is your first published game?
That's correct.
Okay. I am a big fan of cyberpunk and like near future and that sort of thing, and Spectre Ops definitely had a lot of that feel going for it. Do you foresee, and I believe Crossfire is based in the same world?
Yes, that's correct.
Are you looking at any other ideas, and what type of game would you see doing that would be in that same sort of setting?
Oh, okay. A hit and roll social deduction game, I guess, which Crossfire is. But I was also thinking, it's a world kind of ripe for that kind of espionage and subterfuge. But in terms of like other games, I've always wanted to do more Spectre Ops expansions, and some of them using like different mechanics, but still within sort of like that same universe, that same feel, that same cyberpunk aesthetics. I have a sort of an interesting tangent in that the very first Century Spice Road prototype, I was actually thinking of making it a cyberpunk theme. This is very, very early on. And I'll explain the thematic ties to that. Is that each of the cubes represent like a different level of access that you had. The point cards would represent the mega corporation files, secret files that you're trying to hack into.
I think he's sold.
So you would basically like spend your access to be able to get those files and take that. And then once one player got their fifth card, then the security goes into lockdown, and then you finished a round. So I had the whole theme in my head, but I had my peers had said,
Sorry.
my peers had said that that theme might not really be attracting the right audience for the gameplay that you have. So that's why I ended up being a spice trading.
I would challenge them. I would challenge that assumption. This is my poll.
Yeah. Oh man, more red. I always feel like there's a disproportionate number of red questions, but they're the same exact number of red tiles as there are blue. I've been promised. So kind of a blending of industry and games. Is there, your games have a wide variety of mechanics. Like you see a lot of designers design in the same, like I design Euro games, I design miniature games, but yours have a lot of variety. Is there any particular set of mechanics that's particularly attractive to you that you haven't got to use yet, or yeah?
Oh, okay. Mechanics I haven't gotten to use yet.
Something that like inspires you.
I was always interested in the Mancala mechanic. I think that's pretty fascinating. So I like to see if I could do something with that.
Yeah.
Deck building was one that I was always a fan of. I really like the way that it flows, and just there's that really appealing aspect of like drawing and seeing what you're going to get from the deck that you're building. So. But the thing is, it's an incredibly popular mechanic. That's sort of why I haven't like delved headfirst into it, even though it's a mechanic that I do enjoy.
Yeah.
What are the mechanics? I do like tiling and Tetris pieces. I know like games like Patchwork and Barren Park. And
Feast for Odin.
Oh yes, Cottage Garden, Indian Summer. Yeah, there's. There's quite a few now, and I guess I try to stay if it's overly popular. I guess I'm a little bit less motivated.
You want to break some new ground.
Yeah, I'd like to do something that is a little bit less saturated. So I haven't, even though I've been asked many times, am I going to make a roll and write game? And it's something that I don't really feel.
There's a lot of games in that space. It's funny because I think we only have like one.
I don't feel a need to have more than one. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have a particular opinion about. I had a not a vehement argument, but more like we were like very passionate about our side of the argument, and that my friend was saying that roll and write is a mechanic, and I was like, no, it's not a mechanic. It is a method of keeping board state. He's like, no, it's a mechanic. And I said, no, it's a method. Like you could take any mechanic and turn it into a roll and write. So. Yeah, so we went on and on and on and stuff like that. But it was a really interesting conversation. We both got a lot out of it, and we had a good laugh.
That's awesome.
But yeah, roll and write's one that so the reverse of the question is which one would I avoid? It's kind of roll and write.
Roll and write, yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, I think it is your poll. And we have about 5 minutes left. And it is your question.
This is a specific game.
Or any of his games.
I feel like the popular question on my mind all the time now to pick the brains of is, if you were going to make a legacy game,
okay.
what would it be?
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Century Legacy.
I do have opinions about legacy as well too.
Oh, you can feel free.
Okay. So I like the aspect of legacy games where the games kind of evolve based on the decisions or the outcomes of the games. So I think that part is great. The only thing that I question is, do you really need to tear the cards? Like in Pandemic Legacy, I actually keep the cards. I don't tear anything up. Like in Seafall, it's like tear up your original. No, I'm not going to tear these up. Don't tear that up. That's mine.
I was devastated after the first game of Seafall.
Yes.
Devastated.
Yes. You named it. You picked the one that has the part that you want. And then So I house ruled that no, we're not tearing those up. I'm putting them back in the box. Hopefully they come up later in the game at some point. But if I were to pick a game, maybe it would be Spectre Ops. Because I feel like that has a strong narrative tie, and I can really feel that based on this mission, then the next mission would be different depending on whether you succeed or fail. I think that kind of lends itself to the legacy.
It really sounds like that you have like a burning passion for Spectre Ops. Still to this day.
I do, because I definitely sentimentally, like I really find that Spectre Ops is like the one that I think about as like a game that I really enjoy playing it myself, but I never want to force other people to play it with me because I feel like a jerk telling them, hey, you should play my game.
Nice. All right, so we have 2 minutes left, and I think it is my poll. Is that correct? Is it yours?
Yes, it's your poll.
Okay.
I'm going to take my tabs off the table.
So Greg's not here, but I will ask his favorite last question. What is your favorite donut?
I'm boring. I like a crispy cream glazed.
Oh.
I mean, that's not boring. Those are good. Classic.
I will quote some folks from the Rolling Dice and Taking Name guys. Right, it's more than just it's like eating a buttery, creamy, sugary cloud.
I think that's a very accurate description.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching. We'll have more content from Origins tomorrow. And thanks for listening.
It doesn't have to knock the tower over?
We do have to knock the tower
over.
over.
See your method of knocking the tower over.
Oh, yep. I apologize. You have to knock over the tower.
I have to knock over the tower.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, well done. All right, bye.
That was a great method.